Hey, RetconRaider here. Today I thought we'd take a quick look at one of the stranger games that I've backed on Kickstarter. Today I thought we'd talk about Sunless Skies by Failbetter Games. So, what is Sunless Skies? Haha, wow, where do I even begin with this one? Well, Sunless Skies is the sequel to two other games, Fallen London and Sunless Seas. The previous games took place on an abstract, anachronistic version of Earth, where a biblical apocalypse may have occurred in the 19th century. London somehow ended up being relocated onto the shore of a subterranean sea, or Z as they call it, where explorers struggled to chart out the darkest depths, facing off against hideous monsters, soul-eating monkeys, demonic bureaucracy, elder gods, and even stranger things. So, built on the foundation of all that insanity, Sunless Skies seeks to move the setting's timeline forward into the 20th century, taking London to the stars. In Sunless Skies, the player takes on the role of a spacefaring explorer who travels through the cosmos in a steam-powered train. Does that sound strange to you? Well, welcome to Sunless Skies, where strange is the new normal. The game revolves around the cosmic expansion of a newly established British Empire, and the player is tasked with charting out distant stars, battling cosmic abominations, and staking out new territories in a region of space known as the Reach. All in the name of the Queen, of course, and for a generous share of the riches and glory that come with it. Much like the other two games in the series, Sunless Skies takes place in an abstract universe where reality is somewhat fluid. It's a universe where the stars are living things, slowly dying out from some unknown malady, and the space between them acts as the hunting grounds for vicious pirates and eldritch beasts. Every starport contains some new and fascinating story for the player to discover, as they stumble upon untold horrors, intriguing plots, and cutthroat business tactics, all rooted in a dreamlike setting. The developers have teased at what some of those strange encounters might involve, but I'll avoid doling out any spoilers in this overview. We'll save that for when I'm actually playing the game. From a gameplay standpoint, Sunless Skies takes after Sunless Seas. The player is a largely fluid entity, loosely shaped by the player's decisions both during the character creation process, as well as by the story decisions they make as they progress through the game. The game is based heavily around exploration, survival, resource management, and commodity trading. But it's ultimately up to the player to decide what their final goal will be. Perhaps they want the fame that comes with being a great explorer, or perhaps they just want sufficient riches to afford a life of luxury. Perhaps their ambitions are even greater, and they want to stake out a kingdom of their own, far from Albion. All of these present potential endings to the main campaign, representing whatever the player decides their character might value above all else. The majority of the game alternates between narrative story prompts and real-time exploration and combat sequences. As the player progresses through the game, they'll gather resources, work out trade routes, and recruit a bewildering crew of the strangest people that the cosmos has to offer. The Reach is made up of dozens of distinct stories for the player to discover and resolve, each of which comes with its own persistent consequences, both on the inhabitants of the Reach as well as on the player's captain. And when the player is inevitably confronted by some cosmic horror or rogue locomotive, combat is handled in real time, using an elegant system that requires the player to tactically outmaneuver their foes using the finest technology that Albion has to offer. Or maybe just the best that the player can afford. Combat is intended to be challenging, with a slower pace than in Sunless Seas, but with more weight placed on tactical maneuvering as you juke and evade enemy attacks while trying to find exploitable openings in your opponent's defenses. And, much like in Sunless Seas, death is an inevitable part of Sunless Skies. When the player dies, they have two options. They can either refuse to embrace the inevitable, in which case their game will be restored to the last major port they happen to pass through, or they can accept their fate. If the player dies, then their successor will take their place, inheriting a portion of their estate. The cosmos will be shuffled to encourage renewed exploration, but the story decisions made by the previous captain will not be reset, and the player's new captain may find themselves being confronted with the legacy of their predecessor's exploits during their own travels. The Sunless Skies crowdfunding campaign was started back in February, ending a month later after raising roughly £378,000, enough to fund both the main game as well as the first 7 stretch goals. Since then, the developers at Failbetter Games have been making remarkable progress, and now we're on the cusp of the game's first publicly available build. The game will be released through Steam's Early Access program on August 30th, available for purchase for just £19 or $25, and there will be a 10% discount on the purchase price for the first week after release. This alpha build will allow the player to experience the basic mechanics of the game, while also exploring the first few regions of the Reach. This early version of the game will also provide the player with the opportunity to share feedback with the developers, potentially helping to influence the development of the game, which will be receiving regular content patches until the planned full release in May of 2018. If you enjoy games with rich, abstract narratives and a heavy focus on exploration, choice, and consequences, then I highly recommend checking out Sunless Skies. Personally, I thought that Sunless Seas was fantastic, and from what I've seen so far, it looks like Sunless Skies is on course to somehow be even better. I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on the early access build when it comes out next week. But until then, this is RetconRaider, signing off. Thanks for listening. Oh, and remember, although I do love talking about Sunless Skies, you can find out more about the game by visiting the official website or the crowdfunding campaign over on Kickstarter. Links are in the description.